All right, let's move on to weaknesses for NBA contenders. There's no other place to start, Brendon, than the Denver Nuggets, who won the NBA championship. Still the best player alive. According to our friends at BetMGM, they have odds next season of winning the title at plus 475. That makes them the favorites. Here's where I start with this. They have Jokic and Murray, and they're bringing up like most of the band back together. That should make them the favorites. The team is still going to be really good. But you lost Bruce Brown, who was really important for your team, a really key bench piece, fit perfectly, did all this really small stuff. And not as importantly, you also lost Jeff Green, who gave you good minutes, who Mike Malone clearly did trust. This team, its depth, what it looks like beyond its stars, it is going to look a little bit different. It is going to take some feeling out and adjustments and some mistakes, I think. I think that is the biggest thing, is just what does this depth look like with some of these exits we've seen this summer? And is someone like Najee ready to step up? Is the Holiday brother they got good enough? Does Brown take a step forward? Like, does Hunter Tyson, is he, or Strawweather, like who picks I like, are those picks ready to contribute day one? There are some real questions, I think, about their deeper depth as we go here.
So you have their weakness as just depth, just straight up. Yeah, the way that I put it was experience. I just think like some of those names you rifled through could be good, but we just don't know, and that's a lot to bet on when you're a team with a championship window that is as long as, Nikola Jokic's prime and your health will allow, and I guess to a degree the expensiveness of the team, but that's not a concern right now. It's like maybe Brown and Watson, who I think is probably the most likely of their young guys because it'll be his second season to take a step forward. Hunter Tyson was very good. I watched their first Summer League game, and he looked the best of their young dudes, to me, at least in terms of being NBA ready. To me, he's kind of just a better version of what Vlatko Čančar is for them. Like, just can play basketball and shoot, and is big. The other part of this, though, for Denver is I feel like it's almost taboo to mention because the dudes who have had injuries for them are pretty serious, and it's like you don't want to kind of wish that on them, but they were incredibly healthy last year, even by separating the season-long stuff that their guys had. Like, for any NBA team, that was a really, really healthy season. So if they even have one guy miss 40 games for something that's just pretty normal, that would make a big difference in terms of where they are in the standings, or if it happens during the playoffs, you'd be pretty worried because then you're relying on those young guys
100%. And look, again, they have Nikola Jokic. He is going to get them to a certain place. But if the infrastructure isn't quite as good, the injury luck goes a certain way. If Jokic twists an ankle and misses 10 games, their path is going to be harder. Repeating is really hard. I would have the Nuggets right now as my favorites, but I wouldn't. It's not a lock.
Yeah, plus, Mike Malone doesn't like to play young guys. Like, that was a thing basically until he kind of let it go and rolled with it with Christian Brown in the playoffs, just because I think Brown gave him no choice, and having a wing out there was a necessity, and they didn't have a great option. But is he going to roll with it, or are they going to? They just paid Reggie Jackson $5 million. Like, are they just going to say he's our guy?
Look even better. But this is what I've liked about what Calvin Booth has done with this roster to some degree, is that he's kind of taking some of these choices out of Mike Malone's hands. Like, he doesn't have. He's going to have to try to play some of these young guys to fill minutes.
At least in the regular season.
Yeah, and but even if you look at where Bruce Brown is gone, it's like there's only so much he can easily up KCP's minutes or up Michael Porter Jr.'s minutes. Like, at some point, Brown, who I'm sure he trusts more post-title, there's one of these rookies really catches his eye. He's going to kind of get forced into playing some of these things, which is I always like when GMs do that.
But look, though, they still have Reggie Jackson, Zeke Naji, Vlatko Čančar, Justin Holiday, and DeAndre Jordan. That's who Mike Malone's eyes are going to when he looks at the roster. You just have different eyes than Mike Malone.
Where I would say I feel a little bit more confident in myself is that look at where the minutes are going to need to be filled. It's on the wing. I think he might not have a choice but to try the wings just to approximate the wing minutes they lost. Vlatko, I'm just going to call him Vlatko. Him or Najee, okay, maybe they fill the Jeff Green minutes, and that's enough.
Yeah.
But you look at the Bruce Brown minutes, it might be more Christian Brown. but it's also going to need to be like, is it Peyton Watson? Is it Hunter Tyson? Is it Strawweather? Like, Holiday feels like it's like, hey, we got you a 34-year-old veteran who's been around a long time. Like, don't yell at me, Mike Malone. But what I like about when GMs do this is they say, we know this is why I think like that separation, as much as it exists of church and state between the front office and the coaching staff, is good, because the front office is telling you this is what you have to work with. Maybe there's a trade to make later on or something like that. That can always obviously happen. But the way the Nuggets have decided we're going to draft a bunch, and they traded for those picks and during the finals and things to like really set themselves up, I think clearly the front office is sending a message to Mike Malone that it's like, we got to, like, part of our success here is going to be getting the most out of young guys and you making them work. I think the roster feels set up for one of these guys to have to pop for it to work. That's what it feels like to me personally.
Yeah, and I'm kind of playing devil's advocate because obviously I think I would do it that way. I mean, we like some of these young guys. I thought Zeke Naji would play more during the playoffs, to be honest with you, and then he had an injury late in the year, and maybe that had something to do with it. I don't think his athleticism and mobility is quite right, and they obviously unlocked something going small in that second unit. So to me, the guy to watch is Peyton Watson. I mean, Christian Braun is an obvious one, but we already have seen it from him. And Peyton Watson is like the ceiling of what Peyton Watson is as a 6'9", 6'10" dude who can create his own shot and kind of make athletic defensive plays. Like, you're talking about like the high end of him is, do you have a Michael Porter Jr. or Aaron Gordon replacement already? The low end might just be a rotation player. And so I'm going to be watching him pretty closely, and I think he'll be in the
I also
rotation
like, as much as, you believe in guys that obviously more like blue chip draft prospects, I like Strawweather and I like Tyson a lot.